Welcome to the What Now podcast, where we document our journey through chiropractic. Our goal is to give you, the new chiropractor, our firsthand experience in running a principled, cash-based practice right out of school. Join us as we bring you real perspective, lessons learned, and the leading names in the profession as we build the practices of our dreams. Yo, everybody. What is up? Welcome back to another episode of the What Now podcast. We got Spencer and Zach back on the Dolo cast. What's up, bro?
Another Dolo cast. Hopefully,
Another.
well, we enjoy them, but hopefully not too much longer on the Dolos.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We're trying to get our guests lined up on their schedule. We've had 6 or 7 people, and then it's summer and people are doing things.
Yeah.
So it's been tough to line up some guests, but that's because you have us. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So what's up, bro? What's new?
Honestly, man, not much. Starting to enjoy consistency within life again. I know we've hit on it quite a few times, but just been enjoying that and consistently being in the office and watching the practice consistently grow again after some major fall off post wedding and everything. So
yeah, I think it's super important. So today, what we're going to talk about with you guys is implementing CEO days. This is a big thing. Days where we are intentionally working on our practice and looking to build our businesses versus working in the practices. And so, Zach, tell everybody a little bit about what's the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so from my understanding, these CEO days, often as chiropractors, we can get really caught in the nitty gritty of seeing patients, getting their folders and their exams prepped, progress exams, training our team, outsourcing, networking, all these different types of things. And what can begin to happen is you had all this time when you first started out because you weren't seeing as many patients. And so when you had those gaps, you can work on the business to really grow and make a bigger impact. But as that time should fill up, you have less and less of it. And so you go from 2-hour gaps to an hour gap to 20-minute gaps, and you're trying to do all the same stuff, and it just is not working. And you notice some stagnancy or lack of implementation of these types of things because you don't have that CEO time or time away from patients, time away from team to really work on yourself, continue to work on the vision, and really build out the impact you're wanting to make on the practice. And so something you and I have both implemented probably post-wedding, so since May, has been a CEO day where we're not seeing patients at all, and we're just working on the business, getting a lot of things done, implementing a lot of strategy that we've learned, but just hadn't had the time prior to implement.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the biggest thing. And then one of the things that I want to touch on in terms of a CEO day is you have to make sure you answering emails, that's not CEO time, that's manager time.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that I make sure of is that for most things, I put the office email and everyone has access to the office email. I don't get my tax stuff sent to the office email, but I get our school sponsorship things. I have our business email goes to the office email. Our electric account is attached to the office email to where anytime the office gets an email, my office manager gets that and she can take care of that. She'll message me and be like, hey, we got this email, and I'll be like, hey, take care of it. And she will.
Yeah.
And that takes it off of my plate. It's not me being like, oh, I need to pay the electric bill today, or oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. For me, a CEO day is really a solid block of time, 2 to 4-ish hours, really that 3-hour mark is a really sweet spot for me where I'm strategizing, where I'm working on high leverage activities. And so what are some high leverage activities for you, Zach, that you are doing?
So lately, some high leverage. I don't know if this counts, but with us hiring a new CA, going over interviews, I feel like that's high leverage because that's eventually going to be things getting off my plate.
Yep.
But I'm not filling up my entire CEO day with interviews. Some high leverage stuff would be, things like care credit, which is a whole nother thing. So finally, I've been wanting to implement that for 6 months now, but finally having the time to go through the application process. What is that going to look like for our care plans? What does that look like for our team? Strategic partnerships. So creating a list and following up with them. If I am, like, maybe doing some drop offs as well, introducing myself. Some other high leverage would be, what does our marketing calendar look like moving forward? What are our rocks? So we're implementing rocks from the EOS traction system. So those are like our big tasks to get done in the quarter. Things like, for us, it's like 2 lunch and learns, hire a new CA, get our SOP manual done. That's been a big thing. I don't know if it's high leverage. I think it is.
I think it is.
It's monotonous for sure, but it's definitely high leverage because that'll give us systems in place to easily train and reference back to in times of need. So I would say those are some of the high leverage things. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the SOP manual, but the way that I went about it is I didn't actually write it. I got a template
Mhm.
from someone who is much smarter than me, and I gave that to my office manager Logan. Who, if Logan, you're listening to this, since you asked if I talk about you on the podcast, I do. Shout out Logan. Um, But I had Logan, I said, "Hey, Logan, I want you to read this. This is like a high level office manual, and I want you to replace all of their details with details about our office
Mhm.
and like things that are specific to us." And so she went through and she did that. And then I went back and I read through it because one, that tells me what is the understanding of my team of our systems. And then we
Mhm.
sat down and I said, okay, what is in here that we don't currently implement?
Right.
Um, and how can we take some of these higher level ideas and systems and implement them into ours? So she went over that report with me. She's like, yeah, well, hey, we don't pre-qualify our leads. Like when people call in, this is something that I don't do. When we are setting up folders, like she'll be like, I just look at who needs a folder for today and I just print that out. She's like, but what I can do is I can actually take this filing cabinet, print all the folders out for the whole week, and they can be in there. And the day before these people come in, I can just give you the next day's folders to do at lunch. And dude, that has helped so much.
That's
And
awesome.
um, that was from a manual that I had, right? And so
Mhm.
she's learned like all of these things about where she can be better. And then I had her, I said, okay, so for everything that you do, I want you to make a video screen recording on your computer and then upload it right here. And so then when we hired Danny, our next hire, Logan knew the manual like the back of her hand because she wrote it. And she trained Danny on it. And so now actually, Danny, she has been trained in a week. She's already up to speed on the whole office things because we had these bite-sized little videos.
Mhm.
But anyway, so that's how we wrote our manual.
Nice.
Uh, so I can help you out with that.
Yeah.
But
No, I mean, we had
so
probably a similar template, and so that's exactly what Josh and I have been doing,
yeah.
and then
So
kind
for
of
me,
cross
like on my
checking each other.
CEO end, sorry, but to cut you off, but for me on my CEO end, what I did was is I've gone through that and I say, okay, where is this too complicated?
Mhm.
And so then I'm trying to say like, okay, we have 10 steps for this. What steps can I take out?
Yeah.
Right? How do we increase our efficiency? That's one of them. And then looking at marketing specifically from our email campaigns. And so what I'll do is we have like this 68 email template thing that I got from the patch system with my guy
Mhm.
Jeremy. So it's like our email drips. And what I did was is I went back through the emails and I looked at our lowest performing emails and I'm
Mhm.
starting to rewrite those to where they perform better, right? And so I'm like looking at all the metrics on how they perform when they're open, why they're open, who they're open by.
Mhm.
So I'm rewriting them to see if I can increase the engagement. And like the first one that I did was like we were getting like a 11% open rate, and I rewrote it. And now we're up to like 22% open rate,
Nice.
right? So double the open rate
Mhm.
um, for that. And so what I'm just doing is I'm going through those things. Um, and then today, what I really wanted to talk about though is sometimes in my CEO days, I'm not doing anything. Like I'm not doing any tasks.
Yeah.
Like I will just sit there and maybe I'll get an extra workout in, or maybe oh, now we're in the house. Maybe I'll unpack something. But during that time, I'm like thinking and reflecting
Mm-hmm.
on, how's our team performing? Where am I at as a business owner? Where's my mindset
Mm-hmm.
at? What's my perception of the office and how things are working? And where do I see the bottlenecks at?
Yeah.
So have you implemented any of that like reflection time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I've talked about it a little bit on here, but I do a really good job reflecting whether I'm walking or like doing a really easy task. And so with me now living in a house, I have to mow the lawn. Um, and I've always enjoyed mowing the lawn ever since I was a kid. It's just a really easy way for me to reflect. Um, and so that's typically like an every other Tuesday, I'll go home and mow the lawn. And that's where I do a lot of that reflecting. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour. And it's really recuperative, and it's made me really um, kind of reflect back both on myself, as you talked about, of how am I doing, where can I be better at, um, similar things, where am I making things too complicated, um, and so that's been a big thing for us. Or it's driving. I get a lot of thinking done too, and so just driving around um, the area for one inspiration, but then also for that thinking time too. So I've implemented that. I haven't done the whole go to a coffee shop just because I'm typically like in my CEO like 3 hour window from 3 to 6, and so I'm not going to be chugging a coffee at 3.
Mm,
But yeah,
really? So your best hour is that afternoon slot.
yep. In
Nice.
regards to like getting a lot of these type of tasks done, um,
Yeah.
which has been interesting too because I've noticed from a technician standpoint, I feel like I'm a much better adjuster in the morning. And I'm curious with you, um, but from a consultation and a report of findings standpoint, I'm much better in the afternoon um,
Yeah. Well,
because
that goes into your
I typically find my energy later in the day in that
yeah,
regard.
that Steph talks about that a lot. It's good that like goes into what's called your chronotype. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the cyclical clock, different than your circadian rhythm because that's like your biorhythms, but like
Mm-hmm.
your chronotype is the timeline of your energy, how it moves throughout the day.
Yeah,
For me, I'm the exact opposite. Is
classic.
I am better, yeah. Um, my like peak window is 9 to 12. That's my best time right now. Is that's why
Mm-hmm.
like that's probably why I yap so much on the podcast is because I'm like in my most creative time. Um, but that's also why the podcast is so beneficial for me is because like I can really like pull stuff out of my energy. Like I'm really on board. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a way better adjuster in the afternoon because um it's not that adjusting is a low energy activity, but it's a low bandwidth activity. Patient
Yeah.
care, because we're chiropractors, it doesn't take as much effort because the level of training is so high. Like shout
Mm-hmm.
out KTC for that. Like I'm like an unconscious adjuster. Like I can get like into that adjusting flow with very minimal effort.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in like business flow, like that's not something that's like really innate for me. And
Correct.
so that's something that I need to be at my peak level of energy. I need to have my peak creative potential on at that time. So for me, it's the morning between like 8 to like 11 ish, but really more like 9 to 12. Like that's like my best
Mm-hmm.
hour. So I'm structuring my CEO days around that, knowing that I'm in a lower state in the afternoon and I'm in a higher state in the morning. So whenever I do start to take time off from the office, like we close all day Friday and that's my morning time. Tuesdays we're off in the morning time. But later on, as I start to pull more and more shifts back, as we hire associates and scale our team, I'm going to start taking those morning shifts off
Mm-hmm.
to where then I can get into that more creative spot.
Right. Right. And I think that's an interesting spot. And I'm curious your thoughts on this, but like being more, I really, uh, I get a lot of fulfillment from the adjusting, but I get more fulfillment from like the consultations and the report of findings.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm like, as I pull back, like and start envisioning that through these CEO hours, um, will I want to be pulling back on morning times or afternoon times? Um, and often it's the morning. So
Yeah, I mean, it's wherever you have the most energy to give, right? And so, like,
hmm
if you It just depends on where you feel like best serving. Like, I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, like, just because we're the business owner doesn't mean we have to do all of the report findings.
Yeah.
Like, if we would practice together, that would actually probably be even better, is just because, like, I would do really well with reports at
Hmm.
the time where you're not doing, like, where your energy's not as high. And I think that's why we
Yeah.
work so well together, is because, like,
Hmm.
we have like that opposite energy to where
Yeah.
like it fully rounds out everything.
I mean, when we open
Um,
that
and so
chiropractic hospital in 25 years, we'll exchange that way.
lost that connection. Hmm. Tough.
I don't know why my Mac will do this, but we have like like in order to run Platinum, we had to get like you're supposed to have like direct input into your router, but because our router's all the way in the back of the office, we had to get this like special thing. Um, and every so often my Mac will randomly switch over to that Wi-Fi, and like it's not like a stable Wi-Fi for us to use, and so it just did that just now. Once it knocked me out, that it just like stopped recording. That's how you were too. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're back. So we're still one take, but we lost connection to the studio, so we just reloaded it. But to finish up our conversation, um, I think one of the biggest things to look at, like in terms of like your energy and like when your CEO days are going to be best used, when you can be the most creative to create. I'm about to sneeze. Hold up. Oh my gosh, I didn't mute it in time. Brutal.
It's quality.
Anyway, uh, one of the
Best
big,
time to
yeah,
use your CEO days is to
the best time to use your
understand and locate.
CEO days is understand and locate when your energy is the highest, when you feel like you can get into that flow. There is a test that will give you your chronotype stuff. We shamelessly got this from Steph, obviously, but I think it's from my sleep doctor. But if you go and you look up
Mhm.
chrono type
I,
quiz, it is, yeah, by sleepdoctor.com. So it'll go, I think there's 4 types. There's the bear, there's the dolphin,
mm-hmm.
there's nothing else.
Yep.
But
Those are the
really
ones
understanding that it helps. What are you,
Mhm.
Zach? Do you know?
I am a bear.
Really, me too. That's interesting that your energy is the highest in the afternoon.
Yeah, well,
Well,
it
you
was.
say you do adjusting best in the afternoon, though, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
So I
I
mean,
just best in the morning. I do consultations and reported findings, which do I think require more energy in the afternoon.
yeah. Well, maybe I'll have to retake it too.
Yeah,
But
there are like some parts I agreed with, and then some parts. I also like with my CEO day. Was looking at it not necessarily just based off my chronotype, but also when did I notice like throughout the week my energy almost vanish? Um,
yep,
and my Tuesdays for a long time were, you know, networking before this. We would record the podcast. I would go to another networking. We'd have our team meeting, and then we'd adjust for 3 hours. And I'd feel like I'd wake up on Wednesday just like totally gassed. Um, and so that was another big reason I implemented the Tuesdays, and it was our like least scheduled day. So
yeah.
I
What
looked at it
is
from different factors.
From a time blocking perspective, how do you structure your CEO day, like your full Tuesday?
Full Tuesday. So right now I have my men's developmental group with my church from 6:30 to 7:30. I don't like actively look for a provider like meeting Tuesday morning afterwards. I like to keep that space a little more free so I can go home and walk the dogs. But today was just a different day for this provider. He could only meet then. And then with that, hop on the podcast, go to BNI, and then after BNI, I kind of have the rest of the day to get whatever I need to get done. So whether that's being in the office or sometimes I'll go home and take care of the dogs, mow the lawn. So yeah,
That's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is technically on Friday. Yeah, mine looks like get up, work out, get some extended reading time in. That's a big one for me. Like I'll read a
Mm-hmm.
little bit extra in the morning. Um, and then I'll get on like, well, it depends. Our Fridays have been kind of crazy recently, but
Yeah.
um, really I try to look at like stats and like pick an area to work on like that week, like whatever's lowest. Right now I'm working on the marketing emails and stuff, so I'll get into some writing groove.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do that from about like 9 to 12 or like 10 to 1, but mostly 9 to 12. Eat some lunch, and then I'll have a flex time around 2 o'clock where I can kind of do whatever else I see fit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was going to try to use my Tuesdays as that, but yeah, I usually like I have my men's group on Tuesday mornings, and then I typically have like something else come up, like a task that I have to take care
Yeah.
of. I'll try to set a meeting on Tuesday morning. I come up, I get on the podcast, and then I do like some prep work for our team meeting on Tuesday. We have our team meeting, and then
Yeah.
we do an adjusting shift Tuesday afternoon. But
Nice. Yeah, I considered Fridays, and I know it's like a really common time. Would always like, I would be like, oh, now I can go golf or go on a bike ride. And so I noticed in the past, if I had a Friday off, I would fill it with not as meaningful tasks or like things that I wanted to do because I was like, oh, it's the weekend. And so just knowing myself best, Fridays would not have worked nearly as well.
yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening to another episode of the What Now podcast. We'll see y'all next week. Sorry about the connection issues. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the What Now podcast. If you took something valuable away, feel free to share it with a friend, post it on your socials, or give us a 5-star review. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.